Welcome all sports fans, YouTubers, Facebookers, all social media across the nation. Uneducated Network on YouTube presents Uneducated Sports Talk. I'm your host, Carlos Clayton. I got my main man, Brian Wilkerson, back once again for our casual college football talk. Every Tuesday, might do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays now, you never know. But with that being said, a lot of drama. The committee came down with their top four. We'll talk about that in just a few moments. But B-Dub, as always, our new top 10, what it is.
All right, got some spooky stuff going down on this Halloween evening right here. Bama has been unseated from number one. Georgia, the University of Georgia is now in at number one. Bama in at number two. Notre Dame jumps up in at number three. Clemson in at number four. OU at number five. Ohio State 6. Penn State at 7. TCU at 8. Wisconsin at 9. And Miami at 10. We're going to hold off commentary on that for a little while, though. We're going to skip straight to last week's games this time around. So what do you got?
The marquee matchup. We had Team Brian versus Team Carlos. It was Penn State versus Ohio State. He's a big fan of Penn State. I was a big fan of Ohio State. Not actually fans, but we're just believers for that one particular game. But at the end, Ohio State comes out with a dramatic victory, 39-38? 39-38. You would probably never see a score another day of your life. 39-38. Drama in the shoe. That being said, I don't know what to think about it because Penn State looked so dominant from the kickoff, literally. With Saquon Barkley running the kickback.
The opening kick, 97 yards.
You figured it was ball game just from that, and then the way they dominated the first two quarters, to be honest with you. Ohio State just showed that they're resilient. And I expected Ohio State to win, not by what happened, because I expected them to keep it close and ugly. They got bomb rushed in the beginning. For Penn State, it's a good one loss. Mm-hmm. I mean, you lose in Ohio State.
This game delivered.
Yeah,
they promised, and this game delivered. Penn
man.
State came out firing on all cylinders. Saquon Barkley, something like 139 all-purpose yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half alone. And then Ohio State just all of a sudden decided they came to play football. We also had the interception / touchdown that was called an interception, then overruled and called a touchdown.
Right.
You know, in the end zone on one of those bomb plays that I was hoping McSorley was going to throw. Mm-hmm. This game just had everything.
Had everything from start to finish. J.T. Barrett, the 12th-year senior, he came in the clutch once again. But it was kind of, we hadn't seen it this year in a few big games it had. We hadn't seen that at all. And J.T. came in because in the beginning, their receiving core looked kind of poor. And basically, their passing offense.
They couldn't catch a ball.
Yeah, their passing offense looked bad. But now, in this particular game, in the second half, it wasn't the whole game, it was the second half. They couldn't miss. And they're on a rhythm. Once you get into a rhythm, that's all you need. The first catch for first down, that's all you need. That's all J.T. Barrett needed. Yeah. And they kept getting first down, and third down conversion, just wearing and tearing the Penn State defense up. And I sat there and watched that game, and I truly believed Penn State was going to dominate. And to your point, if Penn State would have won, we've seen the way the committee did it. We'll talk about that in a second, but the way Penn State, if they would have won, they could have been number one just because of strength of schedule and who they beaten and where they beaten. Does this actually, I think it helps them. Penn State, it not helps them, but I mean, it doesn't hurt.
No, it definitely doesn't hurt. They're out this year. They're the team on the outs. They need all kinds of things to go their way in order for this. So basically, they're kind of out this year, but this season is going to be a staple. When you're talking about college football, you got to build a name for yourself. This is a name-building season, reaching all the way up to number 2 in the AP poll, winning games, playing big marquee games, winning some. Sometimes you lose close ones, but this is going to be good for Penn State as a football program moving forward. This is a very, very big step. I'm
not counting them out just yet. It'll be tough for them to get in with that loss, but it's a great one loss, and if they run the table and get help from this team and that team, I still think they have a great chance. It all depends on you're pretty much rooting for Michigan now if you're a Penn State fan to beat Ohio State the last game. But then again, Penn State has to worry about Michigan. Not Penn State. Who plays Michigan this week? Is it Penn State?
No,
not Penn State. I might be on the juju. I might be on that juju. But anyways, that being said, Penn State they have a great chance of getting there. So it's not a bad loss. They lost, but it's not bad. But let's talk about the team that everyone's been talking about the buzz around the nation over the last 2 weeks now, and that is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They basically beat North Carolina State 35-14, and when I say basically a beat down, pretty much. These guys have been running the ball like animals, and it's something else. They talked to Coach Kelly, and they said, "Can you describe your team in one word?" And he basically said, "Physical. We're physical." And he said, "We've been physical from day one to now." Go more into depth about Notre Dame and why they bring such physicality to the game.
Well, to start the season off, Brian Kelly was coaching for his job. Make no mistake about it, this season was his job. He needed to come back. So he put a lot of things in place in the offseason during the program to say, look, guys, we're moving in this direction. We got to win football games. Mm-hmm. He said, you know what, if you don't see yourself in the future of this program, now's the time to bow out. And they went through and that was the emphasis this season, was they felt like they weren't physical enough last year. They didn't run the ball well enough. So that was the emphasis this offseason. We're going to run the ball. We're going to get physical with some teams. We're going to play some good defense, which they're doing. They're getting a little bit of the read option going in there. The dive is mixing in pretty well on one side or the other. Really, the only thing that Notre Dame needs to throw in at this point is they need to get some of that down the field passing game rolling to be a serious contender inside this top four. But they can spread you out. They can run the read option. Their defense plays well enough for them to, hang into some of the tough games with some of the tougher offenses.
Gotcha.
With that being said, I mean that's just the one big thing that I want to see from this Notre Dame. I want to see them stretch the field vertically.
Yeah.
Because once they show that they can do that,
that'll be a tough team to beat.
That's where you move into that sort of real elite top four type of squad.
So
there.
You get a drubbing of USC. Might as well call it a drubbing of North Carolina State, who came into the game as a highly great defense.
Yeah, they have a fantastic.
They hadn't given up more than 75 yards in the game of rushing, and then they gave almost 100 in the first quarter to Notre Dame. So it tells you how good Notre Dame is. But with that being said, their schedule, it doesn't get any tougher, but it's a good thing for Notre Dame because, one, they don't have a championship game to go to because they're independent. So you have Miami still left, and you got Stanford still left. And, of course, Miami and Stanford. I want to say it's Navy, something like that.
They play Navy.
Yeah. But besides that, you still have Miami, who's right now a top 10 team. And then you have Stanford, who's still a top 25 team, maybe, if I remember right. Still a top 25 team. So their resume bodes them well. And we'll get more than that in just a minute about Notre Dame when it comes down to the selection with the committee. So Notre Dame is the victor, and they're looking pretty good. They're on everyone's radar, including both of ours. No, on our radar. So this is a team to be looking out for. A team that you don't have to worry about anymore now is TCU. TCU goes into Iowa State, and they lose 7-14 in a game that kind of had your head scratching just a little bit. We knew that TCU has one of the best defense in the Big 12, and you knew that they would bring that physicality on defense to Iowa State, and they did. Iowa State only scored 14 points. But for some reason, their offense in the red zone was getting murdered. They had like 3 or 4 red zone trips and couldn't come up with anything. I know for sure there's a pick, and then there's just a couple stops in the red zone. TCU, I knew it was going to happen sooner or later. We both knew
I didn't think it was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to happen this week,
we
man.
didn't think it would be this week,
crazy.
But it's the Big 12. Whether it's a shootout or we see now a close game. We had one just last week, Oklahoma State and Texas, 13-10, kind of a head scratcher game because I think Big 12 thing for offense. TCU, any chance of getting out?
They do. They have a chance of getting in.
All right.
They win the Big 12.
Okay.
That's their shot. They run the table, and Oklahoma runs the table, and they meet in that championship game, and they beat Oklahoma. That is their shot. That is their one and only chance.
That's a good shot because, like I said, get ready to talk about Oklahoma's in a good spot right now. But really, on the big news that came out, a lot of people were talking about Georgia's beat down of Florida. We all saw that coming. Pretty much just the way the season's been going on. You thought a rivalry would kind of push it towards a close game.
I thought this would be a good first half, and Georgia simply came out and dominated every single phase of the game. There was never a point in which Florida was ever in this contest.
Right.
they didn't even score a point until this third quarter.
It did 42-7, the final score. But this tells you the difference between Georgia of this year and Georgia of old. These rivalry games, them against Tennessee, them against Florida, they've been close games. Been close, or at least close in the beginning. But this Georgia team is on a different level. They are scoring at will, and basically not giving any of these teams, any of these rivalry teams, a chance to even make it a contest. We've seen them go into Knoxville and 42-0?
40 to
40
yeah,
to something
40
like
3.
40 to something.
Bad.
It was a beatdown. They played against Georgia and 42-7. You're like, these are the games that back in the day, SEC East, rivalries, and it's always close. This one, no, it was a beatdown from the beginning, and I enjoyed it because I am now rooting for the Georgia Bulldogs. But
this game is the reason Georgia is number one.
He is the man. He said Georgia was gonna come out. I don't know what he saw. I didn't see it. He said Georgia's gonna go out and just bust heads this year. I didn't believe it. I'm a true believer now. And before we go, for those that are saying that Georgia didn't really beat anybody this year, and that's why you say Alabama's the better team. Alabama hasn't beaten anybody this year either. Just being true. Their best win was against a now 5-3 Texas A&M team. That's their best win, to be honest. So maybe Florida State, but they had issues going into that game with the starting quarterback. But they hadn't beaten nobody either. And Georgia did beat Notre Dame. So there goes your top 5 team that they beat. But with that being said, that was just our breakdown of last week's games. This is going to now move over to the committee. Just today announced their basically top 4. If the playoffs started in their eyes, these are the 4 teams that'll go through it. Beat up. Go ahead, break it down. Starting at number 4.
Number 4, the Clemson Tigers in at number 4. They play well, play good on offense. The defense has showed up, and their only loss, they lost their quarterback. According to the committee, that was a very important thing that they looked for during their selection process, was that Kelly Bryant was out when they lost that game. So in their eyes, that loss wasn't obviously quite as bad.
Right.
I still have them in my top 4, but for other reasons. Sneaking in at number 3. But how about, let's talk about this real quick. This is going to be on everybody's lips for the rest of the week. Notre Dame at number 3.
Notre Dame at number 3. I didn't see this coming. I really did not see it coming one bit.
Week.
Once I saw the rankings about 7:30 Central Time, I saw what happened. I was like, Notre Dame at 3. Wow. They really impressed the committee. Look, I said it from the beginning. The loss felt like a win. When you play against a Georgia team who's been blowing everybody else out now, and you lose by 1 point to a Georgia team, that's a good loss/win for you. So it's basically they're undefeated. They beaten everybody and basically won against Georgia. In my opinion, it still counts as a loss. But Notre Dame, hey, they're showing, and the committee's looking at the schedule. They're saying, well, best case scenario, we put them there, and they run the table, and we did it for a reason. Worst case scenario, they're in there, they lose to Miami or they lose to a Stanford, and then we just take them out. Notre Dame, unfortunately, can only slip up one more time. I know that was a good loss win against Georgia, but the committee's saying, we'll put them in right now, but we get a feeling if they run the table, deserving they're in there. But if they don't run the table, it doesn't really matter. We just put them out. That's 2 losses, and they're pretty much done.
I love this move from the committee. I didn't personally have Notre Dame in my top 4 this week.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that later. I love what the committee is doing with this because this is encouraging Power 5 schools schedule more top 25 games.
Yes.
So if Notre Dame does lose another game, they're probably out. But they don't have a conference championship game. They're an independent. That's important. So they've played 3 top 25 games to date. They've only lost 1 to Georgia, who happens to be the number 1 ranked team at this point in time. They have also 2 more top 25 games scheduled versus Stanford and Miami, as you mentioned earlier. I want to see more of this. I want to see more 2 and 3 loss teams in the top 4. But they're going to be 2 and 3 loss teams because they're all playing top 5 competition. That's what I want.
Big 12.
Compete.
I'm talking to you, Big 12.
I want to see the top. I want to see, as a college football fan, I want to see the top dogs competing and slugging it out.
Tired of seeing them play Alcorn State. the Big 12.
So I love this move. And then the other move that a lot of people are going to be talking about this week as well, Alabama is not sitting at number 1 in the first college football playoff ranking. They are sitting at number 2.
I love it. Personally, me, I would put Bama number 1, but I know why they put Georgia at number 1 because of just the strength of schedule of who they played so far and basically how they dominated. Yes, we've seen Bama go undefeated so far, but I mean, score-wise, they beat a Colorado State team 28-14. You look at that. They've gone ahead and beat a Texas A&M team. What 24 to something like 27-19?
It was close.
Something like that. Yeah. They still had the games in hand. You knew that they weren't losing those games, but just by the eye, if you look at it, you're like, okay, 28-14, 27-19. Then you got a couple of those games that you did blow guys out. I understand that. That Vanderbilt game, 59-0. That really, put the bread and butter.
Don't forget, they did put up back-to-back 50-point performances.
But the quality of opponents that Georgia has faced, talk about Notre Dame. And then you want to talk about who have they beaten so far? Georgia,
Notre Dame, Florida, Tennessee.
Basically, but they routed people. That's my point. They've been routing people the whole entire time. 42-7 against Florida. Something a lot to nothing against Tennessee. I think it was 0. They gave Tennessee a big goose egg, if I'm correct. That being said, they've been routing teams all season. And then the main win, when they played Notre Dame, at that time, Notre Dame was still a top 25 team, I believe 15th or something like that at the time when they beat Notre Dame.
They were on the lower side. Yeah,
so still a ranked team, and you still won, and you went into their place.
In South Bend.
You went to their place, and you beat them. So regardless, that's a huge victory. I applaud the committee for actually having the guts to put Georgia at 1, because it could have been easy to put Bama at number 1. Easy. Like, just throw them at number 1 just because it's Bama. No, they say, you know what? We look into everything, and we see right now Bama outside of Florida State, who at the time, but now we know the real Florida State team now, they don't look good. So now you're like, that game doesn't really matter for you strength schedule-wise. We'll see how you play against LSU and then your upcoming schedule. So I'm really excited about that. So number 2, Crimson Tide, but, hey, still the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm. Still the playoffs. And then at number 1, as we've stated a couple of times during the show, University of Georgia Bulldogs. They look like a complete package team.
Right.
Once again, personally, I don't have them at number 1 in my top 4. I think Alabama is still the best team in the country right now. But the University of Georgia, by far, looks like the most complete team in the country. When in terms of you're talking about, they play defense, they play offense, they run, they pass, and they defend. Alabama. You know Alabama's going to run the football. You know they're going to run the football. You know they're going to do it well. Their aerial game this season has not been...
No.
It's been spotty.
And that could be the difference. Like we just stated, Georgia can pass the ball as well. Not just run it. All these SEC teams, the LSUs, the Auburns, and the Florida, they drive me crazy. Because now you want to say it's time to put a little bit more emphasis into your passing game. Not just defense and running the ball. Yes, the SEC has that lore of we play physical, tough, run the ball down your throats kind of. Well, look, there's only one team in the past 3 or 4 years doing that. It's Alabama. Successfully. Let me say that, successfully. Alabama. Now Georgia's coming in with this passing attack, not only with the Nick Chubbs and the other running back that they have, that running game, but now they can pass the ball too. And they look damn good doing it. The receivers can catch, and they get a lot of yak yard as well. And I'm loving that from Georgia. It scares me. So right now, I see why they put them at number 1. I'm just the respect factor for Bama is the reason why I still have them number 1. Just because I don't knock them until you beat them. You know?
I can't wait to see the way that this Georgia squad comes up and performs with that with that tag on it, that moniker now. Guys, y'all are number 1.
Number 1 in the nation.
Don't mistake. They know. They all know. As much as the coaches talk about don't look at this stuff, they don't mean nothing, none of that. These kids know. They know we're number 1.
Right.
So how do they respond to that being on top? We know Alabama can be on top. They've been on top. How does Georgia?
I think they pass with all flying colors, A+, A++. Like we just mentioned, rivalry games, Florida, Tennessee. Back in the day, that Georgia team will always succumb to the rivalry, and it'll be a tight game, and they either win it or lose it. This year, back-to-back rivalry games. It just astonished me how they don't fall to those traps. And that was their first couple of tests, falling into that trap. One, you go to Notre Dame, beat Notre Dame. I don't care if it's by 1 or by 50. It's still a win. In Notre Dame, I don't care if Notre Dame is ranked or not. That's still a good win. Then you play against Florida and Tennessee, and you rout them. That's a test right there. I thought that's more of a test than them being number one. Because now they've earned that number one, and we've seen what they can do. So I'm like, I don't see this team going down. I don't see this team even being challenged until the SEC championship. And I don't even see them being challenged until that. I think they're that good right now. But I'm going to shock you guys. So let's just put the playoffs. At the playoffs start today we have Clemson against Georgia. And then we have Bama against Notre Dame. I want to talk about Clemson and Georgia. Personally, we've been talking about Georgia and we've been talking about Bama this whole entire time. But I'm going to be honest. I think the best team in the nation is still Clemson. I do. Clemson, I believe, is hands down the best team in the nation. They had that one loss last year against Pitt, right? And everyone's like, well, that's Pitt. But you saw what they did when they went into the playoffs, how they just, those games happen. It just happened. I think if Kelly Bryant is right and he is healthy, if he's 95%, anything lower than that, don't worry about it. 95% and up, yeah, I think they're the best team on paper. And that will be an interesting game, Georgia versus Clemson. Your thoughts on that, my brother?
Georgia versus Clemson. That game's going to look a lot like Bama versus Clemson. That's what that's going to look like. Yeah. That's how Clemson is going to come out and attack the University of Georgia from the defensive standpoint. They're going to try to shut down the run and say, make you throw the ball and prove that you can throw the ball on our corners. We're going to man up with you, and we're going to, that's what we're going to do. And offensively, they're going to come out with the same thing. They're going to try to spread them around, run the read option a little bit, get the passing in. Bryant making good decisions if he can, stay healthy down the stretch. That's kind of, at this point, the only real problem that you see with this Clemson team is, once he goes down, God forbid, they're kind of lost a little bit if he's not there. So that's the one big thing you're looking at for that game. I think that's going to be a fantastic. I love how close I think that these three teams, whatever game matchup ends up coming out of Alabama, Georgia, and Clemson is going to be a good game. It's going to be a game to watch. It's going to be fantastic.
Let's talk about the bubble for a second. The bubble, the 5
bubble
and 6.
Squads.
The bubble squads, yeah. These are all the guys that are right there. They're just waiting on them. Wins from them and losses from the guys up front. Here we go. 5, Oklahoma. 6, Ohio State. I love the fact they did this. OU reminds me sort of Notre Dame. We're going to give you guys that edge right there, but, one loss and you guys are out completely. But OU over Ohio State, I like the fact, and I respect the fact that they played head-to-head together. Ohio State got beat down against Oklahoma in their own spot in the shoe. And, we all knew the flag went down. So you throw another flag on that resume kind of thing because now Ohio State is like, man, we just beat down Penn State. Not beat down, but we beat Penn State, the number 2 ranked team at the time. Why we can't get in the top 4? Well, they feel that Clemson is still better than you. I feel the same way. Clemson's better than Ohio State. And I feel that Bama and Georgia, not so much Notre Dame, but it takes guts for Notre Dame in there. I like that from the eye test, right? Good quality wins for Notre Dame. But I like the fact that Ohio State isn't over OU because OU beat them. Point blank period. Head to head, when it's head to head, you gotta count it, man. And I did say Big 12 step the game up, but Oklahoma did play Ohio State early in the season, so I respect that from a scheduling standpoint as well. I don't know what to say about that. I still think Ohio State is the better team than Oklahoma, but sadly, Oklahoma, we already saw the matchup. And it was early in the year, so it's always good to get that big test game early. So if you do lose it, like Ohio State lost, you can always come back and rebound. So I do like that fact. Your thoughts on that for a second?
I do think right now, after this week, at this point in time, Ohio State looks like the better team. They look like their defense is just a little bit more on the edge. But this one is so close that you do have to go down to that head-to-head matchup. Yeah. Because if Oklahoma can just find a little, if they can just get a little boost out of their defense, Baker Mayfield and company they can go toe-to-toe with anybody in the country. So yeah, at this point you just have to come down to head-to-head, and Oklahoma won. So you got to put them up.
Just a quick let you guys know, we'll recap next week LSU versus Bama. That's a big one for Bama. That's a tiny test for them, but they are playing in Alabama. We'll also talk about OU versus Oklahoma State. That's going to be another huge one for OU. That's going to be huge. If OU can win that could solidify them maybe with a loss from the top four. They can get into that top four maybe if they go and beat Oklahoma State. And then the big one, Miami, is still number 10. After all that undefeated stuff going on there, still 10. They have a big test against Virginia Tech. That's going to be our Team Brian versus Team Carlos. I have Virginia Tech winning that. He's got Miami in it, so, hashtag Team Brian, hashtag Team Carlos, Virginia Tech and Miami. We will recap all that next week. We're going to continue talking about the top four going on here. Wisconsin being undefeated, and at number 9. Miami, undefeated, number 10. Do those guys feel a little disrespected?
They do, but Wisconsin just happens to be an unfortunate circumstance of which division they're placed in their conference. Right. If they were on the opposite side with Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State, you could make more of a case for them had they still been undefeated. But they play nobody. They play nobody on their side. Wisconsin is in that sort of awkward spot where you have to win, and they have been winning games big. But that's really the only merit that we have for putting you in. We're not going to really know anything about this Wisconsin team until they play that national championship. Wisconsin
has to go undefeated, and they have to win the Big Ten championship. They get in, and it's good to know what you need. It's good to know that the head coach, the coach staff, the university, the fans, they all know that we just got to win out. So basically, we're focusing on the season, but reality, you're focusing on the one game, the Big Ten championship.
Miami's big problem is the Hurricane. Obviously, they didn't get to play their scheduled game versus Florida State. But also, another problem for them with that would have been that Florida State would still have been missing Francois. So,
nothing on Florida. You can't bang on that Florida State anymore. Especially if you're Bama, the way Florida State's been playing now, you're like, there goes our quality win.
Miami's been squeaking by a lot of teams. So
every team.
That's what's going to make this really big for Miami. If they want to really make a case, they're going to need to come out and put Virginia Tech away.
If Miami comes out and let's just say they blow out for Virginia Tech, let's just say they get a good 2-touchdown win, that could raise my eyebrows. And because Virginia Tech is still a decent team. They are ranked 13. So they're a very good squad. Clemson just blew them out, but that's Clemson. But if Miami goes in there in Virginia Tech and gets a good quality win, they could bump up to about the 7th spot.
They can move around.
They move around. It all depends on. I think Miami and TCU will be very interesting about those guys because TCU a 1-loss team and Miami being a 0-loss. I think if Miami does win, they pass with TCU and they go probably 8 and TCU drops down to no. I see Wisconsin and Miami pass up TCU if they get good quality wins. Just saying. But I'm very excited for this top 10. The guts it took to put Notre Dame in there. The guts it took to put Georgia at number 1. You know that this committee is thinking. They're sitting down. How many is it again? It's like 11 or 12? 11? Yeah. So they're sitting down and they're discussing. And they won't come out the room until they have a final verdict. Well, I'm pretty sure there's a deadline, but still, till they have a final verdict. And the good thing is you can make those kind of moves because it's early.
Yeah.
Early when it comes down to the rankings for the top 4. So it's early. But you'll know as the season plays out, teams will lose and teams will win. And from there, that's where you do your shuffle.
Yep.
So
things will fall into place.
I think out of that top 6, who cannot afford another loss? Talking Georgia, Bama. Well, not Georgia, Bama, but let's talk about Clemson, Oklahoma, Ohio State. 4, 5, and 6. Who cannot afford a loss?
Clemson, Oklahoma, Ohio State. Oklahoma cannot lose again. Ohio State cannot lose again. Clemson may be able to get away with a second loss, depending on if Clemson wins a national championship. Clemson wins a conference championship with 2 losses. I think they can probably still get in with a little bit of shuffling going around in there. But Oklahoma loses again, Ohio State loses again.
I'm starting to see. We might see a 2-loss team. We saw one 3 years ago with Ohio State. Had 2 losses. We saw that. I think we'll see a 2-loss team in here in the top 4. And I'm thinking it could be a Clemson, like you just said. I think Clemson, I agree with you. They're the only team out of that squad we just said who can afford 2 losses and get in still. Just because they're who we know they are. And Penn State at 7, it sucks to lose that way it sucks because they had the game right there, and they did not, complete it. Being dropped to number 7, they got some work to do. They have to root for teams playing against Ohio State. Basically, Michigan and Ohio State, it's going to be big the last game of the season. They're going to root for them. Penn State has a chance to...
Penn State's 2 biggest hopes are, number 1, if Michigan does win. Michigan beats Ohio State at the end of the season. Then Ohio State has 2 losses, and Penn State goes to the conference championship game. Right. If they win that, they're in. Their other option is for Ohio State to win that game, go to the conference championship, lose to Wisconsin, and Wisconsin wins out. And then you wonder, then it comes down to who does the committee feel is the better team if Penn State wins out and Wisconsin wins the championship. Because don't forget last year when Penn State and Wisconsin played in the Big Ten championship, and Ohio State still made the playoff anyway, not even having been a part of that. So there's a little part of that type of scenario that could play out for Penn State as well. But at this point, their destiny is not in their own hands. All they can do is play football games and hope that somebody loses. Well,
it's been a great first week of discussion, discussing the top 4 from the committee. Let's break down our top 4. I'm going to go ahead first. I've got, in the bubble, the number 5, I got Notre Dame out there. They're right there. If they continue to win out, they'll get in. No doubt about that. Obviously, from the committee thinks so as well. But my number 4 team is Ohio State. I had them up there at number 4. I think that their win against Clemson, their win against Penn State solidified them as a threat now to the establishment, pretty much. Clemson at number 3. I still think Clemson is the best team overall, but with that one loss, you got to knock them for that, regardless of Kelly Bryant or not. Number 2, Georgia, and number 1 is Bama. They're like 1A and 1B right now. Like I said, you can't put Georgia at 1. You can't put Bama at 1. I think Bama's still the best team overall. I cannot knock them until they lose. So, 4, Ohio State, Clemson 3, Georgia 2, and Bama at number 1. Who you got, brother?
Well, I'm going to flip it on you. I'm going to go with start 1 through 4. Alabama is the best team in the country right now. They're in at number 1. Georgia in at number 2. That right there, I'm pretty positive is just going to come down to the SEC championship game. Gotcha. Whoever wins the SEC championship is going to be number 1. Whoever loses the SEC championship is going to be number 2. But if we were in it today, Bama, I'm still going to give it to them, on the merit of what I've seen so far from them and from Georgia. Clemson, I'm going to slide it at number 3 right here. Thinking ACC champions for them. So I'm taking Oklahoma at number 4, though. Oklahoma, on the back of that offense, if they can just, find a little bit slightly better play out of their corners, or they can get locked down the corners a little bit more, and they're going to be good to go right now, Oklahoma. And once again, in the bubble spot for me again this week, Notre Dame.
Got them both in the bubble. That's cool. Well, it's been a great week. We'll be back later on, talk about more of the top 10 and more. So, that being said, I'm Carlos Clayton. This is Brian Wilkerson. Stay smart. Stay educated. Peace.